Are these spare ribs? Or are these spare ribs? Or is neither one of these spare ribs? And is there anyone who even cares? Well, imagine you're throwing a barbecue party. Then you gotta have some ribs. And you probably want your friends and family to be impressed with your cooking skills. And in that case, everybody knows that good barbecue starts with good quality meat. So you go to your local butcher and ask him for a rack of ribs. And then he asks you, which kind? This one or this one? For the right answer, we better look at the anatomy of the pig. Don't start nibbling. Pigs love nibbling. We don't want pigs to nibble at you. We want to cuddle with them, we want to rub them, we really want to take good care of them. But if they start biting you, that's a bad thing because pigs can actually eat you. Let's explain where the ribs actually are. If we take a look at the anatomy here, we see right here, this is the pork loin, right there. Underneath the pork loin, we've got the baby back ribs. So that is right here. And here on the belly side, we have the spare rib, and from that you cut the St. Louis style rib. Oh yeah, you like a nice cuddle, yeah, don't you? Oh. So, baby back, St. Louis style, and the spare rib. It's a good thing the butcher cut them out first so we can take a closer look at it. This is the baby back rib, and you can recognize it from a flat piece of meat. It kind of tapers in towards the thickest part. And if we take a look at the back, you see the ribs, but you also see that it's quite small. This actually comes from the top of the pig. So basically you're going to get a pork loin with the bone still attached to it. Now the first thing that the butcher's going to do is remove the loin, but he doesn't want to cut off too much, otherwise you're cutting into the ribs, and we do want thick baby back ribs. Once the loin is gone, all he needs to do is pull it through the bandsaw, and then he has the official baby back rib. And kind of the name says it all. The baby back rib is the rib that sits in the back. And these ribs are called the St. Louis style cut ribs. Cut from the actual spare rib. So the actual spare rib is part of the pork belly that you take the skin off, and then you take the meat off the ribs and you get the full spare rib, which is all the bones and all the meat. These days it's more difficult to order a full spare rib if you want to. It's more likely that you run into the either St. Louis style cut of ribs or the baby back ribs. But what is the difference between the St. Louis style cut and the baby back rib? And are they spare ribs or aren't they spare ribs? Well, let's start with the obvious. One is a lot bigger than the other. So if you like big, then go for big. It's always more impressive to get a St. Louis style cut of ribs. That's why they use them a lot in competition barbecue. The baby back ribs have a lower fat percentage than the spare ribs, but the spare rib has more connective tissue. And the baby back again is more fine in its fibers, which will make it appear more tender, whereas the spare rib has more intense flavors. But that's just talk. Let's start cooking and do an actual comparison. First thing that I'm gonna do is remove the membrane. With the spare ribs, I'm gonna take a dinner knife and wiggle it underneath the membrane in the center of the ribs, and then with my finger, pull the membrane off. With the St. Louis style ribs, I just take one point and a paper towel and just tear the membrane off. Then I'm going to take the Pitmaster X pork seasoning and I'm going to season all sides, which also means the sides. If you want your ribs to look good, you season them everywhere. To smoke the ribs, I got a very special barbecue. Now, this barbecue is fully insulated. It has an electric heating element. And with the controller, I can adjust the temperature with 1 degree increments, making it very accurate. It also has a smoke generator that works with real wood chips, with which I can control the amount of smoke the ribs get. And that means this thing is absolutely perfect for our experiment. Both of these ribs are going to get their own wireless thermometer. That way I can keep track of that temperature. And for our experiment, that is very important. Because what many people don't know is that ribs are actually done at a temperature of 92 degrees Celsius in its core. So with the thermometer installed, the ribs can go in the Bonnie X smoker. And I'm going to put them close to the temperature sensor of the smoker. I'm going to close the lid and I'm going to give them 1.5 hours to smoke at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius. Yep, we got our own pigs. It's a big deal. And we've had them before in the past, but owning your own pigs is a big deal because it's a big step environmentally, because you're taking care of your own meat, you're producing your own meat, and you know what you feed them, you know how they're butchered, you know how they're treated. So you get a lot of control about the quality of meat, but you also get a lot of control over how the animal's been treated and how it's been processed. And hopefully we can keep this going every year or even expand on it. In Europe, if we talk about ribs, we talk about spare rib. And spare rib means spare ribs, St. Louis style ribs, baby back ribs. It's not just the spare ribs as we know them from the US, it's everything. And it seems kind of wrong. And I've been fighting it forever. But I decided to let that go because I did some research on how that came to be. And I found that actually, when in Europe we started the American cuts, it kind of didn't work out. You see, in Europe, we really want a clean loin, and we want it as big as possible. And that means that we have to cut up as much as possible. And that also means we can't have that beautiful rib. But times are changing because actually my butcher informed me that the ribs are now more popular than the pork loin. If you told me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. But now, because of barbecue, that is the case. So I'm just gonna let it go. In Europe, we call all of it spare ribs. And in the US, we call it baby back ribs. We call it St. Louis style cut ribs. And we call it spare ribs. Don't worry about me. I'll get over it. And then once the ribs hit a core temperature of over 70 degrees Celsius, then it's time to wrap the ribs. And of course, I'm going to melt some butter to clarify it so that before I'm going to wrap them, I can drizzle a little bit of butter on the ribs, making them taste even better than they already do. Once wrapped up, they're going back in the Borniac. I'm keeping the smoker at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, but I'm shutting down the smoke generator because we already have plenty of smoke on these ribs and they're packed up in aluminum foil. So the smoke part of the exercise is done. In the meantime, I'm going to make a barbecue sauce out of 100 milliliters of ketchup, a tablespoon of Worcester sauce, a tablespoon of sweet soy sauce, a tablespoon of brown sugar. I'm going to give it a good stir and mix it up until I have this beautiful looking barbecue sauce. And it's local tradition to serve ribs with garlic sauce. So I took 100 grams of creme fraiche, 100 grams of mayonnaise, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a teaspoon of sugar, a little bit of salt, some ground pepper, fine chopped parsley, fine chopped chives, 2 cloves of grated garlic. I set it in the fridge for 24 hours and now I've got this delicious garlic sauce. The baby back ribs are the first one to be done. And they're super juicy, super tender, and they look absolutely amazing. I just want to cut into them and take a look on the inside. And by the slice, I can feel that it's tender. Of course, I probe them with my thermometer. And what I mean by that is I poke them to see if they're tender or if I have a lot of resistance. And if the probe just goes through, that means that the ribs are nice and soft. And that is a better indicator than just the temperature. The temperature will tell you that you technically reach the temperature that you need to be at to get soft ribs. But you also need time. You need time to cook the ribs and break down the structure inside the ribs to make them soft and juicy and tender. So by probing them, that's what you test. Now, without further ado, let me give this a try. Whoa, look at that. The St. Louis style cut ribs, man, they're tender too. Are a fall off the bone tender. Both of them. They look just as good, but now let's see what they actually taste like. Wow. Before I start talking about the structural differences between the ribs and the flavor profile, let's make a plate first. So what I usually do is I just get some fresh potatoes and peel them and then cut them into fries and put them in cold water and let them sit there for about 30 minutes. Then I dry them off. Once they're dry, I'm going to give them a fry at a temperature of 140 degrees Celsius just to cook them and set the initial crunch. Then I'm going to take them off, let them cool down, and fry them again at 180 degrees Celsius, and all that in beef tallow. And then you get these delicious homemade fries. This is what you get if you order ribs in Europe. Well, maybe not like this. They mostly cook the ribs, but let's not go into that. If they would smoke their ribs like we did. You get your baby back ribs with some fries and some sauces on the side to dip it. And to me, this looks really, really good. The difference between the baby back ribs and the St. Louis style ribs. Now, which one is better? Well, there really isn't one that is better. It's down to personal preferences, but if it's one bite, just like with barbecue competitions, you're gonna go for St. Louis style ribs. But if you want to eat loads of ribs, then I would recommend the baby back ribs. It's a little bit leaner and therefore you can eat more of it. So that's my personal conclusion. Let me know what your favorite style of ribs is, how you cook them, and when you cook them. So do you make a difference between baby back and St. Louis style cut of ribs or not? Let me know down below in the comments. Big thank you to Borniak for sponsoring this episode. And a big thank you to our butcher, of course, and the pigs for making it all happen again. See you guys in the next one. Until then, eet smakelijk and keep on grilling.